ladder. So here goes.
Yeah, bring it on.
So Morley was some kind of paper pusher in a hospital. I'm not sure what. You can talk to him about that. And he filled out his years and retired, I guess. Did you retire? Yeah, you must have. You don't work there now, right?
Right.
Okay. He got a frozen shoulder. And he talked to some people, in the doctors and stuff, and they said, yeah, we can do surgery. And that didn't quite sit with him, but he didn't know what else to do. And someone suggested chiropractic, and he's like, oh no, I don't do that voodoo stuff, you know. So,
Right.
okay. So I don't know how much time went by, but he still had this frozen shoulder. So someone introduced him to Dr. Liz. Now you're starting to make a connection here. And within a couple times of therapy, he could move his shoulder.
Two seconds.
Two. Wow. So then he was like, wonder what else I'm missing all these years that was not there. So he started researching, and he read the Magnesium Miracle book. Okay, now you don't know this, but Becca we found out when she was 12 and she's 26. So this was like 15, 16 years ago, or 14, 15 years ago. She was severely mineral deficient. She couldn't sleep. Severely.
Right.
And I was taking someone to Lydia. I was taking Lydia to someone, and they said, oh, she needs calcium. Well, I thought, well, gee whiz, if she needs calcium, she probably needs everything. So I just gave her the multi-minerals. And she had a profound change.
Almost overnight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we ran out of the bottle of minerals, and then it all came back. So we were like, okay, there's something to this. At the same time you did, I read the Magnesium Miracle.
Same time? Mm-hmm. Okay.
And, but I'm not scientific, and I'm not a researcher. So I read enough to be dangerous. And so I started telling all my friends about magnesium. But Morley went a step further. He put a Facebook group on there, right? Mm-hmm. And this Facebook group grew, and he kept researching every day, 2-3 hours a day for the past, 13 years or so now?
12 years.
Okay. Started putting a bunch of stuff together. Well, he went way beyond magnesium. And so he's going to tell us tonight about some connections that he has found. Now, I just want to say, behind every great man is a great woman. It was Dr. Liz that encouraged him in these studies. She, of course, has a natural background with being a chiropractor. And I guess some functional medicine and things like that. And so she encouraged him. She listens to him every day, what he's reading. And so I don't know that Morley would really be on to all this if it wasn't for the encouragement of Dr. Liz, who, started this whole thing with the shoulder. But there was one more thing. I want you to know that I tried to gently prod some of you to come because this is a huge honor to have him here, to ask your questions, because he's known by tens of thousands and probably maybe more worldwide. And so to actually be able to ask questions tonight about a few things he's going to teach us is really awesome. And this is once in a lifetime. It's an honor. I learn best by asking questions. It's harder for me to read a book and put it all together. So, and maybe I'm very mineral deficient. But anyway, so there's...
Maybe.
I know. So Morley and Liz Robbins.
That was quite an introduction. Most of it was true. I remember many years ago when I was a young tyke, probably about your age, my grandfather was living in Sykesville, Maryland. You know Sykesville.
That's where my mom's whole family is from.
Okay. And the Harlem Globetrotters came to the local high school, and it was like, it was an amazing experience to see them in that very humble arena. And then I've seen them elsewhere, but it was so special to be in that very intimate basketball court, and they were just full of life, and it just, for some reason, this reminds me of that. It's this it's more fun to be in a setting like this than to be in a big hall, things like that. So I really appreciate you all taking the time, because I know you have nothing else to do with your time but listen to me yammer. Yeah, Dr. Liz is instrumental. Again, has anyone ever had a frozen shoulder? It's really painful, isn't it? It's debilitating.
Yeah, I can remember trying to stick my arm out to pay a hole,
Yeah.
and I didn't have surgery either.
No, I couldn't even get that far.
And now it's my better shoulder. By the way, praise to God.
Well, she actually, I'd never been to a chiropractor before. And I was terrified, because I knew these were witch doctors. And how she healed. Why don't you go talk to her? Sort that out. So how she healed me was this joint, the TMJ joint, controls the shoulder. Most people don't know that. I didn't know that. And the way she healed it was by putting her finger inside my mouth, and almost the full weight of her body.
That hurts.
Well, it was excruciating
Yes.
pain, but it was the pressure meeting the pressure in the joint, and then suddenly it was like there was a pop, and my arm went up. It was a miracle. I was just like, this was in the second session, and I was absolutely mesmerized by it. And when we were having a conversation after that, she made this very innocent comment about the innate healer of the human body. Well, I just spent 32 years working with doctors, and I never heard that phrase before. And I thought to myself, I didn't say a word to her, I thought, if there's an innate healer, if there's a natural mechanism in our body to heal ourselves, why do we have millions of doctors around the world? It didn't make no sense to me at all. And so I started on my journey doing research, started with the Magnesium Miracle. And when I first read it, I thought it was like reading a murder mystery. Because I just spent 32 years looking at all these people in hospital beds, wondering why they were there. Well, they're all magnesium deficient. But that was, at the time I thought that was the answer. And so I started a Facebook group. It was very arrogant and also ignorant, thinking that magnesium was the answer. And there was a practitioner who I met at a conference, and he said, "Lorelei, if it was that simple, we would have done that." And in my arrogance, I said, "Well, you don't seem to understand it the way I do." Of course, he was right, I was wrong. And magnesium is really important. And when we have stress in our world, anybody here have any stress in your life? Everything's calm. Last 2 years have been really peaceful. But when you have stress in your world, you have what's called oxidative stress in your body. And we live on a planet where 21% of the air we breathe is oxygen. And we can't live without it, right? But it's actually a poison. The oxygen that we breathe mixes with iron and it causes rust outside of our body. And it does the exact same thing inside our body. If there isn't, with my audiovisual, if you don't have copper, you're going to create rust inside your body. And it's that simple. And it's like, I didn't believe it at first. I thought, well, it's got to be more complicated than that. So it turns out it isn't that much more complicated. That I started with magnesium, and then I discovered iron. What's the number one element on planet Earth? It's iron. 34% of the Earth's composition is iron. So it's the master pro-oxidant element on the planet. It means it loves to cause rust. And what's the second most reactive element on the planet? Oxygen. After fluorine gas, oxygen is the second most reactive. What's the third most reactive? Anyone here getting ozone treatment? Ozone's the third most reactive
So
element.
Lydia had ozone treatment before we knew a lot of this,
Yeah,
and it was horrifying.
it was a disaster, I'm sure.
She ended up in the hospital.
Yeah, I believe it. So ozone's very popular, but that doesn't mean it's good for you. And the number of times practitioners have been wrong is frightening. So you've got this complete misunderstanding about the planet and why copper's here. And the prevailing meme that runs medicine is you're anemic and you're copper toxic. And that's the exact opposite of what the truth is. So prior to so what you've got is iron's number one element. So when they say that you're anemic, what we have to do is really think that through. So prior to 2020, I took the position that humans were the most evolved species on the planet. Now I'm not so sure. I think the last 2 years have been an IQ test, and a lot of our friends aren't passing that test, including my 4 adult children who are triple jabbed. But anyway, so for anemia to be real, it means that it's the number one element, and the most evolved species can't metabolize the number one element. That makes no sense. Mother Nature would not do that, would not design the planet where we're going to be suddenly unable to work with iron. And it turns out, according to the World Health Organization, and we know they're a very trustworthy organization, right? So according to the World Health Organization, iron deficiency anemia is the number one deficiency on the planet, which is a joke. There is no anemia. There's no shortage of iron. It's a shortage of copper that regulates the iron. And so in the world of traditional Chinese medicine, they refer to copper as the general and iron as the foot soldier. We don't need to be in the military to know that generals are more important than foot soldiers. And it turns out that by law, does anybody know how many generals there are in the U.S. Army? There's actually a law that specifies this. You don't know this. Come on, this is trivia right here. 242 generals in the U.S. Army, and there's 440,000 foot soldiers. So just a few generals run a lot of people. And it works that same way in the body. We have 100 milligrams of copper in our body. And everyone always wants to know, well, how much is that? So that would fit on the head of a 1-inch stick pin. It's a little tiny bit of copper. And you've got 50 times more iron in your body. But it's actually a little more significant than that. You're 89, right?
Yeah,
When will you be 90?
April next year.
April of next year. So it turns out that we accumulate 1 milligram of iron every day we're on the planet. So 90 times 365 is a big number.
Yeah.
And that's accumulating in your body. Your wife, not too far behind, but she had the benefit of 40 or more years of donating blood every month, right? And you didn't have that. There are actually only 2 reasons why women outlive men. 2 reasons. They're smarter.
Yeah.
That's a biological fact.
I will not dispute that.
Okay.
Why would you?
But because they have that monthly blood loss, they have less iron exposures throughout their life. Makes it huge.
Well, the last few years, the hospital took so much of my blood.
Yeah, my condolences on that. No, but the thing is, as we get older, we need to be doing blood donations every quarter. It's the easiest thing you can do to improve your health. Once a quarter, especially for guys, especially for women who are in menopause. Very simple. women who are still menstruating, you probably could do it 2 or 3 times a year, in addition to the monthly blood loss. So I met someone Liz and I are up here at the Family Farm Days over in Lancaster, and I'd spoken for a couple of years, and well, they have a 3-year rule. You can't speak 3 years in a row. So we thought we'd come up and hawk our wares. But I actually met someone who was talking to their doctor, and he was really admiring in what great shape they were in. She said, well, you know, I donate blood every quarter. And he leaned forward and said, well, I'm not allowed to tell you this, but that's the best thing you can do for your health. Donate blood every quarter. I'm not allowed to tell you this?
He's
That's
a doctor.
insane. He's a doctor. He's not allowed to tell her. So, magnesium, very important mineral, and it's the chill pill. It's what keeps us calm. And when we're under stress, what happens is our field of vision starts to close in on us. And when you're really in a very threatening situation, you literally can only see what's literally right in front of you. The rest of the field of vision just closes down.
Bobby, that made it worse.
Really?
Yeah, it did.
Yeah, because.
You can't focus on
they-
space
they
now.
become silhouettes now.
Okay.
Thank you, Elena.
Yeah, there we go.
Oh, no, it's just me.
Should I put that light
Yeah, that's
on?
much better.
Should I put the light on up there?
It's weird.
No?
Now we can
Okay.
see
Now we can
space
see
again.
you.
Where's the spotlight?
I know.
At least the floodlights. So magnesium is very easily lost to stress, acute stress, and I refer to it as the magnesium burn rate. So when you know you're in a really stressful situation, take extra magnesium because it'll calm you down. And the best definition I found on stress is by he's a famous functional doctor at Cleveland Clinic. His name is Mark Hyman, and very savvy guy. But he has a great quotation around stress. Stress is the body's inability to make energy for the mind to respond to its environment. And that's what stress is when the world gets so chaotic, when we were all kind of in free fall, April of 2020, trying to figure out what was going on. Everything was out of control. We were very stressed out, and we couldn't make enough energy to respond to that environment. It made no sense to us. What's hidden in the research is the connection between magnesium and iron. They have
what?
Magnesium and iron.
That's
Oh,
hidden
okay.
in the research.
It's hidden in the research. There's only one author that I found, William Wade Lickey at George Washington University, in one article talked about the relationship between those two. And if there's too much iron, magnesium gets lost.
Hmm.
So it's a very, very powerful connection.
That makes sense.
Well, it does make sense, doesn't it?